Tonight on Reporting Scotland, hundreds of residents will have to pay millions to remove Grenfell-style cladding from their tower block.
You assume that the standards are in place that if a fire does break out it will be contained or it will burn slowly, but apparently not.
Also on the programme, as the Royal Bank of Scotland returns to profit, unions protest at local branch closures. Will the last remaining state-funded all-girls school soon be accepting boys?
We'll be live at Murrayfield ahead of tomorrow's Six Nations Calcutta Cup clash between Scotland and England. And disappointment as the women's curling team are knocked out of the Olympic semi-finals. Good evening. Homeowners at a development of flats could be facing a bill of up to £10 million to remove Grenfell-style cladding from their building. More than 300 properties at the Glasgow Harbour flats are affected. Fire wardens have been brought in to patrol the corridors and a special fire alarm system has been installed. Katie Hunter reports.
People living in these Glasgow flats face an anxious wait. They've been told the building's cladding has no flame retardant properties.
That's terrifying, and you don't want to be put in a situation where your building could just go up rapidly. You assume that the standards are in place that if a fire does break out it will be contained or it will burn slowly, but apparently not.
Buildings across the UK were tested following the Grenfell Tower tragedy. As Good Morning Scotland revealed, Glasgow Harbour residents still don't know the cost of replacing their cladding. One guesstimate is £10 million, the equivalent of £30,000 per property. The complex was built by Taylor Woodrow Construction. In a statement, Taylor Wimpey said, "While we do not have any ownership or legal interest in the development, we are committed to working with all the parties involved in finding a solution." In the meantime, a special fire alarm system has been installed and fire wardens patrol the corridors. Glasgow City Council says the development did pass safety standards back in 2003.
The national building regulations changed in 2005. Prior to that time, the regulations considered surface spread of flame. After 2005, the regulations required the whole panel to be non-combustible.
That change in regulation means these panels couldn't be used on new builds today. But where does that leave residents legally?
I think it's a difficult situation for these people. I can't see any obvious answer, especially if we're talking about properties that were planned, designed and built back in 2001 or perhaps even before that. For some kind of newer properties in the last 10 years, there may be some kind of guarantee or recourse through the NHBC, the National House Builders Council. But for this particular instance, in these flats in Glasgow, there is no such luck.
So residents like Phil could be left to pay.
It's turned into a bit of a nightmare. I'm fairly outraged, to be honest with you. I don't see why the residents should be forced to pick the bill up.
Phil's due to find out next month how much that bill will be. Katie Hunter, Reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
The Royal Bank of Scotland, which had to be rescued by the government at the height of the financial crisis, has posted its first annual profit in 10 years. The bank turned a loss of nearly £7 billion in 2016 into a profit of £752 million last year. Our business correspondent David Henderson reports.
It's the Scottish bank which went from boom to bust. RBS became the biggest bank in the world, then collapsed amid the credit crunch. Now, all those years later, it's back in profit.
Well, first off, 10 years of losses, this is actually very symbolic. I think not just for our colleagues at work, but also for the UK, who did put a lot of money into this bank, and we've been restructuring it, we've been taking losses through conduct and litigation issues, and finally a profit of £2.2 billion pre-tax. It just shows how good this bank can be.
This is the first time in a decade that RBS has turned a profit, and what a decade it's been. In that time, it's been saved from collapse by a huge bailout from the taxpayer, and it's run up losses of more than £50 billion.
I'm extremely sorry.
Fred Goodwin was in charge when the bank failed. Since he left, RBS has changed, pulling back from more risky business and laying off tens of thousands of workers. Yet old failings keep emerging, like claims the bank mistreated thousands of small firms and that customers' signatures were forged by bank staff. RBS is also under fire over plans to close dozens of local branches. Campaigners say a rethink's now required.
Now it's in a comfortable position, it's back in profit after 10 years, so there is no reason why it can't do the right thing by Scotland and indeed England, where there's a big branch closure programme, and stop these closures.
RBS is not yet out of the woods. It could face a multi-billion-dollar fine for mis-selling mortgages in America. That could push the bank back into the red and delay efforts to return money to taxpayers here. David Henderson reporting Scotland.
Another of Scotland's big finance firms is seeing a major upheaval with the announcement today that 3,000 Edinburgh workers at Standard Life Aberdeen are shifting to a new employer. It comes with the sale of the company's insurance division and raises questions about job security. Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, is here. This has become a huge firm. Douglas, is that why they're selling off part of it?
Well, to go back a bit, Standard Life was a pretty dull, boring purveyor of financial products in Edinburgh. Until 12 years ago, it floated on the stock exchange, which is shark-infested waters. It either had to swim very fast or it would get devoured. Well, it's swum fast. It's had a pretty good 12 years, shedding its own internal bank. It's attracted more funds. It did well attracting new auto-enrolled pensions. And last year it merged with Aberdeen Asset Management. Between them, these two Scottish firms brought together a humongous amount of assets for management, £655 billion under management, one of Europe's biggest asset managers. It's not their money, that's other funds, pension funds, some of it's our money, which is entrusted to them. And that's what they want to focus on, as well as still selling pensions and providing financial advice. Insurance, which in this case means life assurance, an old part of Standard Life. It goes back nearly 200 years, no longer core to what it does. And it's better, more efficiently run, they reckon, in a specialist life assurance firm like Phoenix Group, which is paying more than £3 billion to take over this division. The two companies in future saying that they will work quite closely together to manage the funds that Phoenix now has.
So what's the picture for jobs then?
Well, as you said, this involves a transfer of 3,000 jobs in Edinburgh, and that'll be more than half of the enlarged Phoenix Group. Others are in Birmingham. Now, they say that the Scottish capital will be the new operational headquarters for the Phoenix Group. There will be a duplication, clearly, between the two divisions as they're brought together. It'll create at least some uncertainty and probably some jobs will go. But for Standard Life, as for RBS and others, there's a big shift to automation, which is already having a profound effect on the financial sector. That's likely to replace a lot of current jobs, bank branches included, but that is while new jobs will be created in the sector.
Douglas Fraser, thank you very much. The future of the last state school in Scotland, where all the pupils are girls, is in doubt. Glasgow City Council's announced it's to consult on whether to let boys into Notre Dame High School. It follows pressure from some families in the area to allow their sons to attend the school. But there's opposition from other parents who want the school to remain girl only. Here's our education correspondent, Jamie McIver.
So, Attica, are you excited for today?
At Notre Dame High School today, they were staging a special charity event. For years, it's been the only state school where boys aren't allowed.
Freedom!
Though there are some male teachers. But far from reinforcing gender stereotypes, the school argues it challenges them, encouraging girls in subjects boys often do better in, like science and technology.
I like computing, that's what I want to do, and I would never have chosen computing if I was at a mixed school.
I take mainly all STEM subjects, and I was pushed more in first and second year to choose these.
So I want to do engineering, which I probably wouldn't want to do if I was in a mixed school.
Most of the students don't come from the immediately surrounding area. That means their parents specially asked for a place at a school proud of its challenging work, like this exhibition on Anne Frank. But some in the local community want this school to start admitting boys. Their basic argument is that school provision in this part of Glasgow isn't right for this day and age. One campaigner has 3 boys at primary school just now and believes friends shouldn't be split up when they're older.
I think it's really strange in modern Scotland that we still have a situation where I have to explain to my 3 boys what there is to fear from them being able to attend their local high school, you know, why they can't go along just with their girlfriends and their classmates that they've been together with sometimes, in some cases, since nursery.
But some parents of current students want to keep things as they are.
Well, the argument for me is very much about access and about choice, and I think that the fact that this school has been here for well over 100 years, welcoming girls from different backgrounds, different cultures and different wage incomes, let's face it, and not just the affluent West End, that it would be an absolute shame if that choice was removed from the many, not the few.
Fashions change, but the debate over whether to let boys into Notre Dame is likely to be impassioned. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland.
A man from North London has been charged with the manslaughter of the daughter of the former Taggart actor John Meekie at the Bestival Music Festival last September. The body of 25-year-old Luella Meekie was found in woods at the Dorset Festival. Sion Broughton from Enfield is due to appear before Poole magistrates tomorrow. A junior football manager who was shot outside a pub in South Lanarkshire is lucky to be alive, police have said. 48-year-old Paul McCall staggered into the Kirkhill bar in Cambuslang after being ambushed in Borgie Crescent in the town on Wednesday evening. Police confirmed that the Cambuslang Rangers boss was shot in the stomach and face in what's been called a targeted attack. Police said they were looking at whether the incident could be linked to organised crime. Building inspections are to be carried out at 17 schools in Edinburgh after a ceiling tile fell on a girl at Oxgangs Primary. The school's the same one where 9 tonnes of masonry fell from a wall in 2016, prompting a Scotland-wide review of building projects. The school said the falling tile caused a number of others and part of a ceiling frame to collapse as an after-school club came to an end. The child was unharmed. She's one of just a handful of film directors in Hollywood, but Glasgow-born director Lynn Ramsay believes that's changing. Women are now better represented on both sides of the camera, not least at the Glasgow Film Festival, where more than a third of the films have female directors or screenwriters, including her latest film, which has its gala screening there this evening. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean reports.
A violent thriller starring Joaquin Phoenix as a disturbed former Marine hired to rescue a girl from a sex trafficking ring. And a chance for Lynn Ramsay, one of a handful of female directors in Hollywood, to rewrite the rules on all those macho action heroes.
Surely we can make any stories we want to make and show that, like, you know, I've made a film about a middle-aged man, I've made a film about a mother, like I've made a film about a young woman and a boy, you know what I mean? Like, any story's open, you know. It's not that you'll just tell women's stories particularly, but you'll tell them with your own sensibility and the way you want to see them.
There's something of a sea change, at least at this year's Glasgow Film Festival, where almost a third of the films have female directors. Among them Karen Gillan, whose first feature film will be premiered there tomorrow. High-profile campaigns to promote equality on both sides of the camera have also helped. But there's still a long way to go.
A very short time ago, there were not no women directors, but, you know, the likes of Lynn Ramsay, they were the exception rather than the rule, which is ridiculous. You know, we need to be represented. Women are the greatest consumers of film and television. It's very obviously should be represented by the filmmakers.
Lynn Ramsay's film comes fresh from Sundance and Cannes film festivals, where it picked up a major award before it was even finished. But her first film premiere in her home city of Glasgow is a special moment.
I saw quite a few films that were quite definitive films, you know, and so it's special it's that theatre, but also just that I've moved back recently, and I think, you know, I'm seeing this really energised city, and, you know, and it feels really cultural, and yeah, we should have this a festival that's a world-class festival.
Pauline McLean reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's just coming up to 16 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. Homeowners at a development of flats in Glasgow could be facing a bill of up to £10 million to remove Grenfell-style cladding. And still to come, Scotland prepare to take on England in the Six Nations tomorrow. The government has put forward a bill which would allow offenders serving their sentence in the community to to be monitored by GPS technology. It would allow offenders' movements to be tracked in a way which isn't possible with current tags. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Rival Alderson, reports.
You can go about everyday activities with it on and it won't affect it at all.
Tagging of offenders, allowing them to serve their sentence in the community, has been part of the criminal justice system for several years, but it only confines offenders to their home at certain times. Now the government's proposing using GPS technology to monitor offenders' movements when they're out and about.
We can see that from minute to minute and allows us to make sure that we can monitor that offender where we think that's appropriate, but at the same time it can also be used to protect victims who have got concerns about an individual once they're in the community. So it allows us to improve how we manage offenders when they're in the community while at the same time protecting victims of crime.
GPS technology allows police to track offenders if courts have ordered them to stay away from locations such as a children's playground or their victim's home. The bill's been welcomed by criminal justice charities.
The opportunities for seeing where people are is a great step forward. At the moment, the radio frequency technology for the tag or home detention curfew only detects when somebody isn't present during a curfew hour, doesn't say where they're going to be or where they are. Whereas the GPS can give greater control over minute by minute and metre by metre locations for people.
Tags could also enable police to see if an offender has used alcohol or drugs through changes in their sweat. MSPs will begin debating the bill in the next few weeks. Rival Alderson reporting, Scotland.
A woman has died after being hurt in an industrial accident involving a forklift truck on Shetland. 61-year-old Karen Allen was injured on the 31st of January. She was taken to hospital in Lerwick before being transferred to Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. She died of her injuries last night. An investigation's ongoing. Scientists in Glasgow have raised health concerns after discovering traces of a strain of hepatitis in supermarket shellfish. The researchers at Glasgow Caledonian University tested samples of shellfish harvested in Scotland and discovered traces of the hepatitis E virus in 8 blue mussels and 1 oyster. It's generally a mild disease causing flu-like symptoms, but it can become serious. Further research is needed to determine at what point in the food processing chain the contamination occurred and how much of the virus must be present to cause infection. It's Scotland versus England tomorrow in round 3 of Rugby's Six Nations. The Scots need a win to remain contenders in this season's championship, but they face an England side with a hugely impressive recent record. Let's go live to Murrayfield now and our rugby reporter Andy Burke. Andy.
Well, Sally, it's fairly quiet here at the moment. I can assure you that won't be the case come tomorrow. This fixture, above all others, is the one Scottish rugby fans look for in the rugby calendar. The recent record against England is pretty poor. You have to go back a decade to find their last victory over their oldest rivals. But if Scotland can regain the Calcutta Cup here tomorrow, it might just go a long way to inspiring the next generation of Scottish rugby talent.
We'll start with 2 hands, seeing it's easier.
The children of Broomhouse Primary School in Edinburgh receiving a coaching masterclass from a Scottish rugby legend. Well, he is to most fans.
You know who this guy is?
Ross!
Ross what?
Something.
Ross Ford, of course. He played his part in Scotland wins over England in 2006 and 2008 and believes they can do it again this weekend.
The fans sort of always ask you about Scotland, England, that Calcutta Cup and that. So I think sort of their enthusiasm for it as well kind of seeps into the camp. They have played some fantastic rugby. They fronted up against a big French pack. So if it all comes together on Saturday, there's no reason why they can't.
Scotland have beaten England!
This man remains the last Scotland coach to win the Calcutta Cup.
2008, we played a lot better than them that day and thoroughly deserved that win. The things I remember most about it is just the volume of noise coming in the last 10 minutes. I mean, you couldn't hear yourself think. It was just so incredible.
Are you all right? What are you up to?
the game, the atmosphere is different for a Scotland-England game. It kind of feel the buzz, and the kind of, with it being a sort of nighttime kick-off, tends to be a bit darker, and it kind of adds to that sort of atmosphere. Everyone kind of gets really up for it, and it massively lifts the players.
Our victories against England have all been really on heart and courage and defence previously, so it's all been sort of, I think, epitomised by the crowd getting involved, having some sort of really massive efforts in defence. And the game's changed a little bit at the moment, I think, and the way Scotland are attacking. If we're going to beat England, we need to score tries.
By all accounts, it's Scotland facing the uphill task on Saturday, but England will not allow complacency to be their undoing.
It's one of the most historic games in the rugby calendar. So they feel honoured to play in this game, and I want them to be excited about playing in this game, but at the same time, know they've got a job to do.
These children are too young to remember Scotland's last victory over England. High time then for some new Calcutta Cup heroes.
Well, those children aren't the only ones looking forward to this match. 67,000 fans will be packed in here tomorrow. England arrive as the big favourites. They've won 24 of their last 25 Test matches. Scotland, big underdogs. It's a situation they're used to, and it often brings out the best in them, and that's what will be required tomorrow. Their very best if there's to stand any chance.
Well, here's hoping. Thank you very much, Andy Burke at Murrayfield. The Winter Olympics in South Korea come to an end this weekend. Several of the Scots had been among the main medal hopes in Team GB, but now the women's curling team have to win their bronze medal playoff against Japan to salvage a solitary Scottish medal. They lost today's semi-final to Sweden. From Pyeongchang, here's Azra Lamont.
Eve Muirhead facing 3 Swedish stones in the house. Cannot get this wrong.
This is where it all went wrong for Eve Muirhead.
Cannot get this wrong.
A slight misjudgment and the match was as good as gone.
Here it comes. Now then. Oh, it's going to catch. Oh.
The Scots of Team GB battled on, but just as in Sochi 4 years ago, they miss out on the gold medal match.
I think we're going to see the handshakes. We do indeed. So Eve Muirhead's quest for gold ends here in this semi-final.
I missed a couple of key draws out there, and you can't afford to do that. And yeah, of course, absolutely gutted. I guess we've trained hard for the last 3 or 4 years to be in that position, and unfortunately today we were just outplayed. But we've still got a medal to play for, so of course we'll be giving it our all tomorrow.
As you've said, there is still a medal to be won, so we're going to go out there. We'll go, and it hurts just now, but we're going to come out firing tomorrow.
If they can bring home bronze again, it'll be more than their fellow Scots.
Expectations of Scots medals had been high. Kyle Smith and the men's curling rink had hoped to improve upon the silver won by Team GB in Sochi, but they finished 5th. Andrew Musgrave may only have been an outside medal chance. In the end, his best finish was 7th in the skiathlon. And no one from Team GB came into these games with greater expectations upon them than Elise Christie, but the best she could manage was 4th.
Come on. Come on, Murray Buchan. Come on, Murray.
For some of the Scots involved, like Murray Buchan, medals weren't a genuine goal. Just being at an Olympics was an achievement in itself.
My second run I thought was a lot better. I thought my landings were a bit cleaner, some of my grabs were a bit better. On my right double, my grab wasn't great. I'm just quite disappointed that I came so close and didn't make the cut.
It would be nice to see some Scots on the podium before Pyeongchang 2018 comes to an end. Alistair Lamont reporting Scotland at the Winter Olympics in South Korea.
Well, it was a gorgeous day today, wasn't it, Kosser? Let's see how the weekend weather's shaping up.
Well, we're staying with settled weather, Sally, so that's the good news indeed, but some cold air on its way. Good evening to you all. Well, we've had plenty of fine, dry weather, spells of sunshine around as well. And this beautiful picture sent in from one of our weather watchers in Aberdeenshire of the fiery sunset tonight. And as we head through to the evening, we continue with largely dry conditions. Clear skies, especially across the northwest of the country. But during the course of the night, we'll see more in the way of cloud building across the east coast and for the Northern Isles as well. Now, temperatures, well, we're holding up above freezing for the Western Isles and for the Northern Isles and for coastal areas with a bit more of a stronger breeze. Now, we had some very strong winds across the west coast and across the Western Isles earlier today, and it will remain breezy here overnight tonight as well. But further inland with lighter winds, temperatures dipping below freezing and a widespread frost in store. So for the start of the weekend, cold and frosty for some, but some decent spells of sunshine developing. The cloud where we have it will thin and break, and we'll see more in the way of sunshine developing by the afternoon. So if you're heading out around 3 o'clock, still some cloud around for Shetland, maybe 1 or 2 very isolated showers here, but it's a dry picture elsewhere. Some decent spells of sunshine developing along the east coast too, an onshore breeze making it feel a bit cooler, temperatures reaching around 6 or 7 degrees. Now, if you're lucky enough to get tickets for the Calcutta Cup match tomorrow, well, conditions are set fair. There will be plenty in the way of dry, bright and sunny weather, but feeling bitterly cold. Temperatures reaching only around 3 Celsius as the maximum. And during the evening, dry conditions too, with some clear spells. Further towards the west, well, here we'll have the best of the day sunshine across parts of Dumfries and Galloway, for Glasgow too, and up towards the Highlands and Islands. A bit more in the way of cloud perhaps for the Hebrides, and still quite breezy here, but the winds will tend to moderate later in the afternoon, and temperatures reaching around 5 or 6 Celsius. But if you're planning a trip to the hills and mountains, plenty of dry weather here too, some decent spells of sunshine for most of the ranges. And it will be cold though, gusts of up to 45 miles per hour for the Coolin and Skye ranges, and for the Galloway Hills too, here gusting up to 40 miles per hour. For the Cairngorms, a bit more in the way of cloud, the risk of 1 or 2 wintry flurries. But the real cold weather is yet to come. High pressure over Scandinavia, and with the wind direction flowing clockwise around it, we're drawing in that bitter cold air from Siberia. Dubbed by some as the beast from the east, we're going to get some very cold weather for Sunday and into the start of next week, and with it some snow showers to come too. But for Sunday itself, there will be more in the way of cloud developing across the east of the country, maybe thick enough for 1 or 2 wintry flurries for parts of Aberdeenshire, Angus and for the Northern Isles. The best of any sunny spells further towards the west. And temperatures, well, we're reaching around 5 to 6 Celsius at best, but add on that wind and it will feel much colder. Temperatures for some in the east dipping as low as freezing, so very cold conditions to come. That's your forecast.
Thanks very much, Kosa. A reminder now of tonight's main news. The family of 2 young brothers killed in a hit-and-run collision have paid tribute to them as jolly, happy, lovely boys. Corey and Casper Platt May, aged 6 and 2, were struck by a car yesterday afternoon in Coventry. Homeowners at a development of flats in Glasgow could be facing a bill of up to £10 million to remove Grenfell-style cladding. More than 300 properties at the Glasgow Harbour flats are affected. That's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back just after the 10 o'clock news. See you then. Bye-bye.